Thank you, I appreciate that. Ready? Okay, good afternoon, Chair Padilla and Commissioners. Mandy Sackett, Surfrider Foundation's California Policy Coordinator. Surfrider submitted 2 letters regarding this item. We hope you've all had the opportunity to review them. I won't repeat all of our points here today, but we do want to highlight 3 of the most critical and respond to the addendum. So our 3 main topics today are that 1, the mitigation and conditions are insufficient without the homeowners as a co-applicant. 2, additional changes to Special Condition 10 are needed if you do move forward today. And 3, we believe that public outreach and the alternatives analysis were insufficient. So for these reasons, we're going to ask you, and we believe that this application and staff's recommendations still do not adequately address Coastal Act requirements and should be denied as it was in 2012. So this is Strands Beach during the last November king tide. This is what we have the opportunity to save today. You can see that even with the king tide, there's beach space to be saved. We strongly urge you to deny the proposed revetment today. This beach is too unique. It's culturally, recreationally, and ecologically valuable. And the recommended mitigation does not adequately mitigate the impact of destroying this beach. So we're going to expand on that a little more. The lack of benefiting private property owners as co-applicants is a glaring omission here. If the community association or the Breakers Isle HOA is not required to be a co-applicant, the Commission's ability to enforce that no future redevelopment or new development be approved to rely on this revetment is extremely limited. And as that is, this permit could result in the seawall's existence into perpetuity. It renders the 20-year limit basically meaningless. So typically the Commission would use deed restrictions to prevent that, but that's not possible in this case as the community association is not a party to this permit. So therefore, there's no way to ensure Coastal Act compliance, and this application should be denied. We appreciate and support the real estate valuation method utilized to calculate the mitigation in the staff report, but it's illogical that taxpayer dollars would be used to protect private residential development. With the county's finite budget that already goes towards park improvements, there's also no way to prove that any access improvements or project would even be additional. That's an extremely important part of any mitigation. Without additionality, mitigation requirements are meaningless. It may otherwise happen already. So the 2015 settlement agreement, it does charge OC Parks with managing the revetment and the bluff stabilization, but it doesn't absolve the community association of their duties under the Coastal Act. You still have your authority to do what you need to do to protect the coast. It doesn't preclude their participation in the application in any way. So as is, this application needs to be withdrawn and reconsidered once they join. So if you do vote to approve this project today, and we hope that you do not, we do want to urge you to at least ensure that the mitigation funds go towards protecting or creating beach space elsewhere, and I'll expand on that in the next slide. But first, to the county's request, they state that the proposed walkway should be thought of as like-for-like mitigation for the loss of beach space. They want an over $8 million reduction in the mitigation fee, and that is frankly absurd. There's no way in no way does access adjacent to the beach compare to sandy beach space, and I hope that we're all on the same page about that. A natural shoreline is much preferred for recreation and maintaining surfing resources needed for habitat. And the staff report, I think, also does a really good job refuting that. And in that regard, I don't even think the $3 million reduction that staff is giving them is warranted or necessary. And this photo, again, just shows the footprint that what's to be lost. And so just to wrap up on that, there really is no way to mitigate for the loss of this unique beach. It's beloved, it's abundant with ocean life, it's adjacent to a marine protected area. And we hope that, at the very minimum, you will require that Special Condition 10 ensures that the mitigation fee goes towards creating or preserving beach space somewhere else nearby with a nature-based infrastructure or living shoreline project as a minimum acceptable mitigation. This should be the Commission's policy. It's not enough to merely include in the options in the findings, which is a reason that natural infrastructure projects are not proven and they're not the findings say that, well, we can't require this because they're not proven, but we strongly disagree with that. There are many examples up and down the coast: Surfers Point in Ventura, Chula Vista Beach Berm, Cardiff Living Shoreline. There's dune restoration projects in Humboldt. Pacifica State Beach has a managed retreat living shoreline project, multiple projects in the Bay Area. And this is a photo of a brilliant project in Ventura at Surfers Point where beach was restored and the surf and access benefited. So, the staff report addenda on Tuesday, as I said, does not go far enough. And so for that reason, we believe that this application should be denied. We're asking you and OC Parks, the community association, to, they can return as co-applicants once there is sufficient mitigation and proper public outreach. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Rick Erkeneff, chair of the South Orange County chapter, to speak to our other main points. Thank you.
And you can be my clicker, please.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Mandy. Again, my name's Rick Erkeneff. I'm currently the vice chairman as a volunteer for 25 years now for the Surfrider Foundation South Orange County chapter. To start, thank you, Honorable Chair and commissioners, as well as staff. I'd like to commend Eric Stevens for his hard work on this. I appreciate his site visits, as well as the County of Orange. We've had a pretty open dialogue about it. As you know, this is the area, Strands. This photo's from 1920s. I think I was born about 100 years, maybe 200 years too late. This is an amazing part of our coastline. Next slide. This is me surfing and my new spirit animal, the bottlenose dolphin. It is known that the Pacific bottlenose dolphins have some of the largest populations at Dana Point. So anyways, why I say that is I had the extreme pleasure of witnessing a dolphin birthing at this beach. Next. Shorebirds in the wave, the green wave, you can see on the inside there's some snowy plovers riding the waves. Amazing. Next slide. This is an amazing day of surf, and I do question what was stated earlier in that greater wave energy, and I question that analysis and where that data comes from and how to prove that. This swell was on the magnitude of about a 10 to 15 year swell, huge. You can see the lifeguard tower there at Salt Creek Point. It's actually in both slides. So one shot from the Nagel Shores parking lot and the other shot from the Monarch Beach parking lot. And of course I paddled out by myself on that day and felt like I was in Hawaii. But what that shows is that we get giant swells. This swell was out of the southern hemisphere. And the next day, the junior lifeguards were participating on dry sand at Strands Beach. This was about 10 years ago. So it shows that the angle of the swell that we get does not come straight on. We have the Channel Islands, Catalina specifically, that does create some shoaling effect and some blockage. So we don't get waves straight on like other beaches. Now, I'm not denying the fact that about every 10 to 15 years, there are huge swell events. They occur. But for the most part, this part of Strands and Salt Creek, for that matter, have been very resilient. So that's one question I want to have on the record. Next slide. This slide is actually not from the area, it's actually from Seal Beach. And so, as you know, when they have high tide and wave events, the city, I believe maybe the county, gets to pile up sand to protect. So, maybe there's a strategy that we can look at that is adaptive, that isn't in this report, to where maybe there's geobags or ways to prevent when we know, as a surfer, I know 10 days from now if the waves are going to be good and the tide's high. Okay, so I think that with today's technology and the ability to have an adaptive management plan towards these large surf events, this is maybe something that hasn't been explored, that I believe that denial today will allow for this to be maybe embedded into a future plan. Next slide. As you can see, this was the site visit with staff and with the county and with Surfrider as well. That is a story polling. Those colors represent the red that extends the entire length of the revetment, and the yellow, which is about equivalent to 6 houses worth of that ancient slide. And again, the county went through these slides so quickly, and I think that is part of the problem with why we have a handful of high school students. And for all clarity, we did not seed those kids to come here. They found out online yesterday, and they all ditched school and showed up here. And good on them, because this will be their beach, hopefully, and when they're my age. But again, 37 feet for 900 feet of it, and 48 feet for 255. I mean, 48 feet, that's what, about the size of your dais, maybe larger. I mean, that's pretty significant. And the fact that those story poles were only up for about an hour or two. I called the city manager of Dana Point. He didn't even know that it ever got story poled, let alone the public. So I think that is part of the problem that I believe should be enough for denial, that this hasn't been in front of the public in a meaningful way. So this again, on the right is what they've referenced, the South Strands area. And you can see after a storm and a wave event, how devastated the beach is literally overnight. The good news is the sand really migrates between the two big points from those aerial shots, and the sand does come back. So when we lose our sand, we don't necessarily lose it to longshore currents and it disappears forever. And I will have to note, I'm sorry I didn't start with this. I'm lucky enough to be a Orange County native. My family decided to build one of the first houses in Miguel Shores in 1972, and I had the luxury of growing up in this area. So I've spent the better part of my entire life at this beach in these areas. So again, that's why I'm getting emotional, because this is my backyard. I'm the definition of a NIMBY. Next slide, please. Again, OC Parks disagrees with staff's conclusion that natural sandy beach is arguably more valuable. So that in itself, I think, is pretty telling. Next slide. So this is a video, and this was actually, I shot this on Monday. So a couple days ago, right? During the King Tide. Thank you for your King Tide project. I'm a huge fan of it. And I shot two different clips. One clip, the first part of this is at the site location, and I will pan from the area of the location of the project to the south area, and you can see the difference. And then we'll go to Capo Beach and the county park down there, and we can see in the contrast between these two beaches and how they're managed. And please, hopefully, will this thing play? All right, there we go. So again, this is right at King Tide, and there's dry sand down there. So here we go, we pan to the south from that project site, and this is what the south area looks like. So obviously no peat. Now here we are in Capo Beach, some people walking their dog, and oh my gosh, and on Scout's honor, that was not set up. I literally showed up and started to pan, and I watched these two old folks get completely drenched. And so you think about moving towards that, that's going to exacerbate that. And I know public safety comes in to consideration. Moving out towards the ocean, even in these big events, we're going to have to close that walkway down. I mean, that's just not safe. That wasn't even a swell. The waves were this big, and that whole parking lot in Capo Beach, which is under pretty bad duress, was flooding people. They had no idea. They had no warning. I mean, that lady could have gotten knocked over, broke her hip, and then I wonder what the lawsuit would look like for that. Now imagine that along the whole stretch of beach. And I talked to an individual here. He mentioned that there's a better part of 500, 600, 700 junior lifeguards that use that beach during the summer times. Are they going to run their beach on that path and disrupt the people that are trying to just walk along? I mean, it's creating a situation that I believe there should be, and we should explore other options. Again, so in conclusion, and we'll have a little bit of time if you have any questions, the crux of this is that the county is doing more public outreach for managed retreat project at Capistrano Beach Park, just where that lady got completely covered with that water, than they are doing or have done for this project that will kill this beach. And I think that alone is the problem. There's been no town halls in Nagel Shores HOA. There's been no town halls in the city of Dana Point open for the public, for kids, for anybody to show up and comment on that. And I think that it's your responsibility to require them to have an open and transparent process here so that folks can comment on this and really truly understand what's at stake. I know it's late in the day, so I will conclude and say thank you very much for your consideration, and I hope that you deny this project. Thank you.
And just really quickly to wrap up, the people of California will lose this beach to the sole benefit of the nearby property owners. In the interest of what fairness can be found in this situation, the property owners must be held accountable to pay the mitigation fee, since they alone will benefit. The settlement agreed does not absolve them of mitigation. And mitigation should be like for like, spent on natural infrastructure living shoreline projects that will protect or restore a nearby beach. So we urge you to deny or postpone this application today until a more fair and complete project is proposed. If you do choose to forge ahead, we request you improve the mitigation as noted. Thank you.
Thanks to you both. All right, Daniel Cullen, followed by Matthew Poole, followed by Anna Nemeth. Sorry if I mispronounced. State your name again, and you guys got 3 minutes each. Hi.
Hi, I'm Danny Cullen from Dana Point. We all heard about this last night, and it's such a powerful issue to us that we decided to come up and voice our concerns. This proposal to increase the size of the Revetment will reduce the usable beach area for our beloved but already crowded Strands Beach. Now, this is a reduction of public beach for the 23 houses of Breakers Isle for the private neighborhood Nagel Shores. This infrastructure is unnecessary, unwanted, and otherwise an ugly infringement on the beautiful sandy beach land. In addition, this proposal mentioned a seaward portion of the Revetment extension. When breakwaters are built in the ocean, the longshore transport system of sand is disrupted. As you may know, this disruption can be detrimental to sand levels on beaches. If this Revetment is built up, Strands will be unable to replenish its sand levels naturally. As a result, sand levels will need to be replenished unnaturally, or the beach will be washed away. Kappa Beach has suffered a similar fate after infrastructure was built along its coast. Now Kappa Beach is depleted of sand and waves break along the parking lot, uprooting palm trees and destroying walkways. We would hate to see Strands suffer the same fate. Please take note of our concerns. This issue affects thousands more than the residents of Breaker Isle. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Matthew Poole, followed by Anna.
Thank
Welcome.
you. My name is Matthew Poole. I'd just like to,
Mic up closer to your mouth, Matthew, a little bit.
as has been mentioned before, the community has not been given enough time to adequately contact their local and state representatives to combat this. This would eliminate a large area of our well-loved and widely treasured Strands Beach. This has been an escape for many of us from our hyper-stimulated, over-connected, and overstressed lives since the day we've been waddling toddlers. We've been at this beach. It's our home away from home. We go there weekly, if not daily, to just relieve stress from our busy lives, as I'm sure you guys lead extremely stressful lives as well. And I'd just like to say that as part of the, as I mentioned in my email, thank you very much for reading that. I appreciate the Commission's mission to protect and enhance California's coast and ocean for present and future generations. I would request that you help us in our attempt to protect our beaches so that we can continue to cherish them as long as we live here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anna Nemeth, followed by Trent McClurg.
Hi, my name is Anna Nemeth, and I'm a senior at Dana Hills High School. I'm here to speak on behalf of the sand and for the people who couldn't be here today. Growing up down at Strands Beach, I've been in the Junior Guards program for several years. And if this project were to go through, the Junior Guard program would not be able to run the way it does today. I can say from my time as a Junior Guard and an instructor that Junior Guards changes lives. It makes them comfortable in the ocean. And for this reason, and many of my friends have become lifeguards today. Though this does not only impact Junior Guards, but the emergency access for emergency vehicles such as lifeguard units and quads. When the tide is high and over the summer, the new proposed stone would hit, but the water making it impossible to get emergency units down there. We have two very important and busy towers in the area, and busy towers down in the area that in any emergency situation would no longer be able to be accessed from any direction. Not only will it be hard to get vehicles down there, but it will create a large rip current due to the backwash from the water hitting the project, creating a new hazard for swimmers down at this beach. We can't let this project go through because of all of its effects to the community and the emergency response. And with that said, please, please, please deny the proposal today. Thank you.
You have Trent McClurg, followed by Clayton Vincent.
Hi, Commissioner. I would just like to thank you for your time, and I would like to retouch on the fact that we are here independently in support of our community and fellow students and children and the youth of Dana Point, California. I am Trent McClung from Dana Hills High School. I would like to speak on the behalf of the youth in Dana Point advocating for the preservation of Strands Beach by preventing the project proposed at Strands Beach, as it would take away nearly half of the sand at the north end during high tide. I would also like to retouch on the photos depicting high tide during Strands Beach. Several of them were taken post-storm, leaving water higher than it would normally be. The revetment will push people south and making the south end even more crowded than it already is. There is no imminent reason for building the seawall or walkway. The sea level has not risen enough for concerns regarding the houses on the bluff. This project would vastly affect our youth in Dana Point, as Strands is a community treasure to tons of the kids in Dana Point. There is even a Junior Guards program, as Anna touched on, that would tremendously be affected and would not be able to run considering the space that would be taken up by the walkway. Thank you.
Thank you. Clayton, followed by Alex Larrigan. Forgive me if I messed that up.
Hello, I'm Clayton Vincent from Dana Hills High School. I don't have a whole lot to say, and then basically covered most of it. I just wanted to agree with the previous statements. This project would not only affect the community of Niguel Shores, but the whole surrounding community and others who come to Strands yearly. This item has not been proposed to the community enough to be voted on today. Personally, I did not know about this till last night. I believe we should postpone the voting on this item and proceed to formally inform the community about what is happening to our beach and give us time to act on it and voice our opinions. Also, as Councilmember Brownsy said, we are proposing using millions of public money to protect a private community. If the community feels the need to proceed in this action, the funds should come out of their HOA budget, not the tax dollars of the citizens of Dana Point. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, followed by Joe Hennigan.
Hi, my name's Alex Lavien. I'm here just to request that we deny or delay this vote because it's so crazy. Like all these kids said, we found out about this yesterday. And basically just because of the lack of awareness, I think is the first reason of why we need to do this. The community does not know. I mean, I've reached out to a bunch of people and people are completely shocked that this is even happening. So, I mean, I think that there would be a little bit of PR or public outreach about this, especially when it's giving up the public beach. It's like an OC Parks project, but the beach doesn't belong to them. It's a public beach. And they're making the decision on behalf of everybody without any say. And I mean, they went through and they've discussed mitigation, which is also super ambiguous to me. I mean, how could we vote on a project when we don't even know what the mitigation is at this point? And one of the things I looked at is, I mean, beyond the, they valued our beach down to sand dollars and everything else of whatever it was, the cost, the tune of a few million. But I mean, if you look at the project proposal, right underneath that, after they outline that, it just reads, although the sand supply fee estimate is based on a quantifiable site-specific volume of sand and market condition, this estimation of beach loss through sand volume calculation does not fully address the recreational value of anticipated beach loss. As detailed above, the proposed revetment will effectively eliminate a large area of public sandy beach. The most appropriate mitigation for the loss of public sandy beach would be to provide a new public sandy beach area of the same size, which affords the same recreational opportunities in the immediate vicinity of the site for the 20-year duration. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't build a new beach. You can't do that. So we're looking at, I mean, you can't even fix a beach once you do something like this. And it's so crazy that they're talking about the most appropriate mitigation. I mean, basically I'm running out of time, but you can't buy or build more beach, but you can destroy one. And right now we have the opportunity to vote to save one. Okay, that's just what we're dealing with here, is just the footprint alone and the recreation. Like, to build access to something, you're building access to the access point and the beach is gone. That's what we're dealing with. So I don't know. It's crazy until we get more information on this. I think it's just wild.
Thank you, Joe. Followed by Catherine Levigan. I don't know if I messed that up or not. Hello.
Hi, my name is Joe Hennigan. I've lived in Dana Point for most of my life. As a member of Generation Z, I've grown up surrounded by the effects of consumer culture on the world. Small things that we've done as humans that have had disastrous effects. You know, we've seen that in the examples of Capitol Beach, for instance. You know, we put in the walkway for something. It was something small, something that was supposed to help us, and it had consequences, far beyond what we're able to control. And Strands is something that, like people have said before me, is multi-generational. It's something that my father grew up with, and it's something that I grew up with. It's something I hope my children will be able to grow up with. It's something that the Hennigan family will be able to share with one another. And if we're just gonna build on it, if we're just gonna keep going forward with the revetment, keep going out and building on it, there's not going to be much beach left for these future generations. There's not going to be anything left for me to pass on to my children or for them to pass on to theirs. So I encourage you to think about the future generations, to think about what they're going to have in terms of beaches when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, followed by Fred Gaines.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon, and thank you for your service to protecting our coast. I'd like to just start with reading your mission, although a few of the kids have touched on it, that the Coastal Commission's noble mission, protecting and enhancing California's coast. The Commission is committed to protecting and enhancing California's coast and ocean for present and future generations. It does so through careful planning, regulation of environmentally sustainable development, rigorous use of science, strong public participation, education, and effective intergovernmental coordination. So I've been born and raised in Southern California. I've been a resident of Niguel Shores for 48 years, a homeowner for over 30 years. This is a very personal issue to me. I grew up on that beach. My children have been raised on that beach. And my very best memories in my life have been spent with family and friends on that sand. The OC Parks proposal for the revetment, including the walkway, will destroy that sandy beach. It's hard to fathom that we have a situation within the same city by OC Parks to the south in Capitol Beach that there have been massive public outreach, there's been town halls, emails, and a website. What's very strange about this proposal is there's been very limited disclosure. My neighbors haven't heard of it. My association has had little pieces but has never presented an overall explanation of what the plan is. We haven't had any town halls or presentations by OC Parks, and a huge piece that I didn't really hear explained was from OC Parks is the recreational component of the walkway. Now, I understand that the Coastal Commission appreciates and wants to support coastal walkways. And the beautiful thing here is we don't have coastal access issues, but we have protection of the sand. And if this goes through, we're gonna ruin the sand, and some of the kids talked about really extreme issues. It's not gonna be a safe beach. Even our public safety won't be able to pass. So I'm just asking that you don't give up public land and sandy beaches that cannot be replaced at the expense of private property using taxpayers' money to do it. Please deny or at least delay vote